Do you want to master the front and middle splits? I'm going to share with you today my favorite exercises for mastering the front and middle splits. Now, splits, flexibility is all about balance. You can't just focus on the flexibility, but you also have to focus on end range strengthening to make sure you don't get injured and you're also bulletproofing your body. So I will be demonstrating some of my favorite exercises. You want to make sure to follow them as a whole and stay tuned for the specific details I'm giving of each exercise and how to implement them properly. So check out the video and make sure to watch all the way until the end. So the first exercise in my splits routine is going to be the standing single leg hip hinge with your foot elevated. Now it's really important here you focus on maintaining good core engagement and you also keep a neutral spine. Now you'll notice as you lean forward and close the angle between your chest and your leg, the stretch is going to intensify. So if this is really tough, I encourage you to take your time, go slowly, work deeper into the movement. Once you have a hang of that, I want you to grab a pair of dumbbells and we're going to load it up and build some strength. So it'll feel a lot more like doing a deadlift when you add those weights in. So start nice and light, really making sure you're staying to those same principles, slowly lowering down, coming back up at the top, making sure you're not using any momentum and you're really doing your best to feel this in your hamstrings, progressively sinking deeper. So I don't want you to jump to the deepest stretch. I want you to take your time, perform 3 sets and build up to the end range flexibility. Now we're going to move on to the QL side bend. This is a really great exercise for opening up the side body and improving your middle splits flexibility. Now we're using the same principle here. I have my leg on the bench and we're slowly lowering down, making sure you keep that spine nice and tall. It's okay to side bend and move through the spine, but as you sink that hand deeper and you work lower down into the motion, you're going to feel a big stretch through your inner hamstrings and your inner thighs. So we're stretching the entire group, the adductors, the hamstrings, to work that position of the middle splits here. And you notice after you've warmed up the tissues, grab a weight and making sure to emphasize the pause at the bottom. That's really where you're going to get a lot of the benefits. Come nice and down, slowly lowering, pausing at the bottom, really allowing the muscles to do the work and spend time in that end range of the stretch. Make sure to perform both sides, 3 sets minimum, and you're on your way to improving those middle splits. The next exercise we're doing is the seated good morning. This is a really great exercise and crucial for the development of the front and middle splits because we're building strength in the glutes and the hip flexors in a shortened position for the hip flexors, and we're developing flexibility and strength in a lengthened position for the glutes. Now it is really important here you keep those knees nice and wide, you externally rotate your hips. So I want you to feel your outer glutes firing in this position, driving your feet into the ground, really feeling strong into your body, stable through the core. And then from there, staying nice and stable through the spine, holding the weights between your hands. As you lower forward, you're gonna feel the stretch intensify in those glutes and the hamstrings. It's gonna burn. And if you feel that, you're doing it right. So slowly lowering down, making sure to pause at the bottom and slowly using your glutes to come back up. Now, if you've never trained your strength from this hip hinge position, it can be a little difficult. So start nice and light and then build some strength in this position. It's gonna help you towards your middle splits, your pancake split, and many other awesome splits variations. So now we're going to be going through a dynamic mobility sequence that's going to open up the middle splits and the hamstrings a little bit more, starting with the half knee and the groin stretch. Then we're going to move into the tactical frog stretch. Now you notice a lot of these exercises we're doing in this video focus on improving the middle and the front splits. We added the weights before, focusing more on building power and strength those muscles. Because remember, we don't want to build flexible, weak muscles. We're here to be athletic, strong, and pain-free. So come down onto your knees here. You're going to take your left leg out to the side. I want you to sit your hips back. As I sit back, I increase the stretch through that medial hamstring. Now, if you're feeling a little tighter, make the pulses a little bit smaller. Really inhale forward, exhale back. Try not to round your back too much. Keep the form nice and strict. You're going to do this 10 times, and then we're going to add a nice external rotation of your femur in to make it a more dynamic movement. So you might have trouble articulating that motion, but we're trying to stretch not just a singular muscle, but a muscle group, working through that fascial line of the adductor and the hamstrings here. Now, if you notice from the side, you'll be able to see that I'm really turning my toes up, externally rotating my knee as I'm planting my foot down. So you'll make sure you're not making the mistake of having your hands over here or coming all the way forward and dropping your stomach and coming back, really making sure you're maintaining strict form. Now, once you've done that on both sides, we're going to be coming into the next variation. So if you've done yoga before, you might have done this, the regular frog stretch. Now, a lot of people have their feet together. That's a waste of time. That's not going to cut it. So make sure you take your toes, you point them out, you come nice and wide. Now you could bring the knees together, but you really need to straighten up those knees to a 90-degree angle. So instead of just hanging out here, core is tight, we're staying athletic, rock forward, lift that knee in the air, keep that spine straight. A lot of people will do this exercise and compromise their form. I'm coming forward and I'm not dropping my pelvis down because what's the point of that? Straight form as I'm coming forward, internally rotating my hip, trying my best to keep that spine neutral. So I don't care if you can only come back and just lift that foot a little bit, that's gonna pay more dividends into your mobility and unlocking the front splits than just dumping your pelvis. Because again, we're trying to focus on optimizing your technique and your movement. So make sure you're doing these correctly. So if you notice so far, a lot of the exercises we're doing are focusing on the hamstring mobility, gaining the length for the front leg. But the reason a lot of people don't ever end up learning the front splits or even the middle splits is they forget the aspect of the hip extension on the back leg. One of the most crucial pieces to gaining the front splits and really unlocking that level of mobility. Now, a lot of times people will come here and they'll spend a lot of time stretching and they'll spend months and months and they'll be stuck here. But you want to know why? It's because you're neglecting that back leg. If you're just doing your hip flexor stretches here, half of the split is how well you can lean into that pelvis and get the extension in the back leg. You need to have this much range first, if not more, to get into that position. So I'm going to show you my favorite exercise that I call the reverse splits, and here's why. So you want to come forward with that front leg as far as you can. Then instead of straightening out, I want you to bend the knee a little bit, tuck the toes here, drive the pelvis forward. So we're really replicating the shape of the splits without having to obtain it. So you can spend some time here, hang out and breathe. Now, depending on your flexibility level, you might feel a stretch in the front there. So just hang out here, spend some time. Ideally, I would say come as far forward with the front leg you can until you lose your balance in that position and really going from there, holding nice and tall. I would suggest if you can have some yoga blocks here, really hang out into that position. Now, if you find this a little inaccessible, you could just come to that hip flexor stretch, place your hands along the hips, drive the pelvis forward, have a little few pulses here, feel the hip flexor, squeeze the glute, get a nice little assistance into that position, and you're gonna be on your way to developing some athletic power through those hamstrings, opening up your hips, because again, it's not just about lifting the heavy weights, but we wanna be strong, flexible, and pain-free and have a nice physique. So you can't just do one or the other. So these are really great movements that are not going to improve your mobility only, but they're going to help to bulletproof your body, strengthen your hamstrings, and help you feeling nice and mobile. If you found today's video helpful, check out the link below for 25% off my athletic mobility coaching program, as well as the athletic mobility online course. This is an amazing course, shows you how to rehab all your injuries, work on the splits, the back bends, you name it. We have a stream for you to develop that athleticism and that mobility. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, stay tuned for the next video, and as always, you gotta stay fit.